Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. My name's Howie Heckman. I'm one of the developers here at PTS. Today, we're going to talk about ClearStream RFID and GPS-powered asset tracking, utilizing the Zebra's latest fixed RFID device, the FXR90, which includes GPS, WAN, and a whole bunch of connectivity options in an all-in-one package that's extremely durable. So we're going to go through the setup of that, and you guys can take a look at the latest version of ClearStream 8.1, which includes all of these features today. Just first, a little bit about the agenda. So just, of course, an introduction, then some upcoming events and releases that we have here at PTS, and then I'll be going through kind of the step-by-step configuration of ClearStream with a live demo of capturing RFID tag data and streaming that tag data to a destination with GPS coordinates attached to each tag read. Before I get into the guts of the webinar today, I would like to just mention our open office hours. It's something that I don't think enough of our customers take advantage of, but it's a very, very helpful tool to get up and running with any of the software really from PTS and all of the different use cases you might use with our software. It's really a one-on-one open kind of forum that you can log into and ask the technicians live any question you may have. And I usually encourage people as they're setting things up, if they have questions as they're going, they can kind of work through those questions as they're setting things up with the team here at PTS. So it's every Tuesday, 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern, and Thursday at 10 to 11 a.m. Eastern, so twice a week. It's open to anybody that would like to log in and ask questions. And again, it's a one-on-one time you can have with the experts here at PTS and just ask them questions regarding their setups of any of our software, any of the tools that we use and the technologies that are built into our application. So it's a great tool for any questions you guys may have going forward as you're setting things up and just learning about the software. I'd also like to mention some of the upcoming releases. The next thing that we're working on here at PTS is a unified web portal for all of our different software products. So for those of you that are familiar, we have two main product lines, ClearStream, which we're talking about today, but we also have our Tracer Plus application, which is a mobile form development tool that allows you to build RFID data collection forms for Android, iOS, and Windows devices. That has right now a different kind of web portal than ClearStream. So we're unifying them into one management system between the two to make it easier for our users to manage their licenses and users across the different products, because a lot of people use both products in tandem. Tracer Plus for mobile data collection and then ClearStream for the fixed RFID data collection. So we're unifying that portal, so keep an eye out for that. We'll be sending out more updates on when that will be available to our end users as we get closer to release, but that's what we're actively working on here at PTS to go alongside of our software releases. A touch on PTS's philosophy about how we develop our tools and our applications. We believe that we want to give our customers and our users the most flexibility they can when they're choosing the data collection processes that they want for their environment. Our software is all configurable. It's not an out-of-the-box solution, meaning you can kind of set it up for whatever you'd like and then utilize these different powerful technologies for data collection. So fixed RFID, mobile RFID, barcode scanning, or BLE beacons. These tools are all seamlessly integrated into third-party systems. So you can integrate our data collection tools into the systems maybe you already have. So maybe you want to build out RFID into a system that doesn't currently have it. Our software allows you to do that, set up and configure the end data collection tool, that fixed RFID or mobile RFID reader, and hook it into those pre-existing systems that you may have. It's accessible and affordable. All of the stuff that I'm going to show you today is available as free trial. We've always done that with our software. Free trials, go to our website. You can download the software and do everything really that I'm going to talk about today before you go ahead and purchase the software. You can go ahead and configure it and see how it works in your environment, try to tailor it to your needs, and then go from there. So we make it accessible and always a free trial for our users to get up and running to start. And of course, it's customer and partner driven innovation. So we always take the requests from our end users, of course, and build the features that they're most requesting into the product. So that's kind of our philosophy. And this slide here just has a bunch of different logos and screen images to show that, you know, we support different types of hardware, different manufacturers of the hardware, really to make it as flexible as possible for the people that are setting our software up and use the equipment that they want to. But today we're here to talk about the Zebra FXR90 and GPS tracking within our ClearStream application 8.1. The Zebra FXR90 is Zebra's newest fixed RFID reader. It's a really great device. It's very, very rugged. It's IP65, 67 sealed, so you can have this outside in an environment where other readers you may not be able to install. It has many different connectivity options. So all of the Zebra readers in the past, and really most of the readers on the market today, are strictly like a USB connection or an Ethernet connection, maybe PoE. The FXR90 built in comes with Ethernet, so PoE, but you can also connect it to a Wi-Fi network. It has a Wi-Fi radio built in, so you can just provision it, hook it up to your Wi-Fi network, and you don't have to run any cables for network connectivity. You can even use a WAN radio in this device, a cell phone 5G radio. So you can hook this up at a remote location where you don't have Wi-Fi or Ethernet and just need power to start collecting RFID tags that are sent back to, say, ClearStream for capturing that data. It comes with 2 integrated antennas, and there's certain models here. So the integrated antennas come on some models, so you have to make sure that if you want the integrated antennas, you get the right one. But the ones with the integrated antennas, in the middle of the reader you see there, it has 2 antennas for reading tags. So you can really install this device without running any wires for antennas, hooking it up to Wi-Fi, and just power it, and you can start scanning RFID tags in a fully integrated unit. That requires no additional accessories to like antennas and cabling and all that sort of stuff. So the key features here are the GPS capturing of data, like I'm going to show you today. It has different connectivity options again, PoE, Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth, and 5G. It's IP65, 67 sealing. On some models, it has that integrated antenna, and it also does have 4 or 8 external antennas that are optional that you can hook up to the unit as well. So just like a traditional fixed RFID reader, you can hook up those extra readers. Maybe you're setting up a portal or something like that and need more antennas for more coverage. There's this picture here on this left-hand side of the GPS receiver. So this is actually an optional unit add-on to the FXR90. So you would, if you want to use GPS, you would have to purchase this add-on receiver as well. But you would just wire that up to the unit, and that captures the GPS signals to do the GPS tracking within the application. Now, I think I forgot to mention that we will have a question and answer period here at the end of the webinar. So as I'm going through everything here, if you guys have questions, because I do see one that popped up on the question panel already, so I'm mentioning here, but please feel free to use the question panel at the end to send your questions over. I'll try to read as many as I can aloud to you and answer them that way. And of course, if you have questions after, you can always reach out to us. So what are these Zebra FXR90 use cases that we're seeing? Well, obviously from the ruggedization, the connectivity options, there's a lot of out in the field type applications. So mobile, work truck, inventory, and tracking. If you could install this within a equipment van, power it from the van with those integrated antennas, you can capture the tags on that truck, scan all of the items within the truck, and also capture those GPS coordinates. So you know now if you're looking up maybe in your backend system where something is, if you got a read on this, on a tool that's on a truck and you need to know where that is, you can get those GPS coordinates back with every read that is made by that reader. And it's a cell phone connectivity. So you're getting that real-time information out in the field sent back to your home office so that you can see exactly where the items are that were scanned by this reader are in real time. Yard management, you know, if it's a large yard, putting things at certain locations, and when you drop them off, maybe by a forklift or something like that, capturing the RFID, the GPS coordinates where that's located for the larger items. Job site asset management, again, rugged device, so you can put it in a remote location that's maybe out in the elements, and this device will last and be able to scan RFID tags in a number of different job sites. Remote kiosk tracking, oftentimes in the past, and actually it's one of the reasons we developed a product for us called ClearStream On Board. Remote kiosks have been like a kind of a tricky RFID setup, because you may not have connectivity options where you're trying to maybe put up this pop-up RFID scanner. You're out in the field, you set up a job site, you want to track things going on and off the job site, but you don't necessarily have connectivity options, and the traditional fixed RFID readers typically have, you know, Ethernet connectivity or USB, something like that. So if you want to capture tags, suddenly you probably need a PC at the location. You need a router to wire everything up. You need an application on that mobile PC or whatever you may have configured at that location to store the data, and then you have to come up with a way to get that data back over to your, you know, your home office. The FXR90 you can install there. You hook it up to WAN. As long as there's a cell phone network, you can get real-time data back to your home office by just plugging in the device and having it configured to scan for tags in the way that you need to. So it makes those kind of kiosks, you know, pop-up RFID applications much easier than it's been in the past. You can get that data real-time right back to your home office over a cell phone connection. There's no need for that kind of PC at the location or an application running directly on the reader. And I will say too, the FXR90 is capable of scanning RFID tags and holding them on the device before it phones it home to ClearStream to capture into your backend database or your backend system. So it can store and forward that data that's collected. So even if it's a spotty cell phone network coverage, it can hold on to that data and send when it's available back to your home office. And of course, all standard UHF install. So I mean, it's a fixed reader. You can mount it to a wall just as you could with other devices, but it's an extremely powerful RFID reader that can handle all of your standard use cases as well for RFID. It just has all of those extra features, GPS and all of those, to kind of expand the use cases of fixed RFID into places that were traditionally more difficult to install these devices. Okay, so with that, I'm going to actually jump out of the PowerPoint, and I'm going to kind of do a live demo of setting up ClearStream to capture GPS coordinates and send that data to your backend system. Now, I do have a question here that someone's saying they can't see anything, and I apologize if that's the case. It looks like I'm sharing my screen. I don't know if anybody could follow up in the question panel and just let me know if that is the case before I start showing the demo here. Okay, we can see. All right, thank you for sending it over, guys. You can see. So for the person that can't see, maybe try to reconnect to I am sharing the screen here. I think it should be visible to you. But maybe try reconnecting to the GoToWebinar link. But with that, thank you for letting me know you can see some of you. But with that, I'm going to jump out of the PowerPoint and go into a live demo of this setup. I always like to mention that the software, like I mentioned before, is all free to download from our website as a free trial. So if you go to ClearStreamRFID.com, just click anywhere you see these orange buttons. It will bring you to the form to download. And the latest version there is build version 8.1, which supports all of these features that I'll talk about today. But just go to this form, you just fill out this short little form here, and you can download the application and run through a Windows installer that'll install it on your machine. So everything that I show you here, you can actually just follow along and set it up yourself. So I do like to mention that. Go to ClearStreamRFID.com and click on any of those orange buttons to download the software. When you do download it, it's just a quick standard Windows installer, installs on your PC. At the end, it'll ask if you want to open it up, and if you say yes, you'll be presented with this screen here. So this is ClearStream for anyone that's not familiar with it. This is the Windows server-based application, so you would install this at your home office or some Windows PC to control and route the tag data that's coming from all of the fixed RFID readers that you have in your environment to a destination database. So I don't have anything currently configured here, but just to talk about how this works, on the left-hand side here, I have a source of data. And on the right-hand side, I have a destination of my data. So the source is always going to be some type of fixed RFID equipment, or it could be a BLE gateway for anybody that might have any interest in scanning Bluetooth beacons. There's also some other options for fixed barcode scanners as well. But there's a large number of different types of devices that you can set up as your source of your data. That's where the actual equipment is collecting tag data, maybe collecting barcode or BLE data. And you configure where you want to send that data on the destination side. So every RFID tag read that's read by the FXR90 can be sent to a destination of your choosing. So I'm going to go ahead and set up the destination first, actually. And I'll just talk about a couple of different options you have here. The first is ODBC. This will allow you to send it to any type of database. This could be Oracle, MySQL, PostgreSQL, SQL Server, all those sorts of things. You can also go to a SQL Server directly without the ODBC connection. So you could just type in your username and password and where the server is. You can go to Excel workbooks or text files directly from the FXR90. So maybe you want to capture a whole bunch of tags at a work truck right into an Excel spreadsheet. You could do that. The last two options here are the PTS RTLS Cloud. So for those of you who are not familiar, we do have a RTLS Cloud, a real-time location service cloud that will give you mapping capabilities if you're using something like an ATR 7000 to be able to see where assets are in your environment. And that's a service that we provide through PTS that if you wanted more information, please reach out. And actually the last webinar that we did, it's up available on our website, is for the ATR 7000. We talk about this setting here. Finally, you can also go to a PTS RIA endpoint. RIA is our configurable API. So if you are a customer of our PTS Cloud, you can use the RIA endpoints to map these devices to your PTS Cloud. So if you wanted to create a PTS Cloud that's collecting FXR90 data with GPS coordinates, you can select your PTS RIA endpoint here. You'd enter your username and password, and all of your fixed RFID data from that Zebra FXR90 is going to go right into your PTS Cloud. For the demo today, I'm just going to go ahead and select ODBC, and I'm going to select the sample database that comes with ClearStream RFID. It's a Microsoft Access database. And finally, I'm going to select the table called RFID tag list. That's where I'd like to send my tags. And just to show you what that is exactly, that is installed in the install directory for ClearStream. So if you wanted to just demo things, it's a good tool for that. And if I open that up here, it's just this Microsoft Access, in this case, RFID tag list table. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to populate this with all of a bunch of tag reads with their GPS coordinates. Right now, you can see there's no data in here. So I'll go ahead and move that off. Okay, so the next thing I need to do is actually configure my source of data, which is going to be a Zebra FXR90 device. So I'm going to go ahead and select the Devices button here. This brings up the device configuration utility within ClearStream. Now, this is where you'll be configuring all of the hardware equipment that you have in your environment. And again, this goes back to our trying to make it as flexible as possible for our end users. We give you a large selection of different types of devices that you can configure within ClearStream. Most of them are fixed UHF readers, but some are not. Some are fixed barcode scanners by Cognex. Some are HF scanners. So if you have like pad scanners or something like that, or keypads for badge scanning, you can configure those into ClearStream as well. So we have some options there, especially from FIG. They have HF scanners that are compatible with ClearStream. But you can see this full list here. Zebra, Motorola, Intermec, Impinj, Alien, ThingMagic. There's a whole bunch of different manufacturers that you can select for your configuration in ClearStream. If you don't see the fixed RFID reader listed here that you may be using, you can select LLRP, which stands for Low Level Reader Protocol. A lot of readers, if you don't see it this list, do support that. and you can use that as your connectivity type to that device. It'll have an LLRP server on it that ClearStream can communicate with. One other thing actually I'd like to mention too is there's an emulated option here, which allows you to add kind of a fake reader to ClearStream. And then with that fake reader, you can drag and drop a floor plan that allows you to move tags through that environment and simulate an actual fixed RFID reader. So if you don't have any equipment, but you still wanted to kind of try all the features of ClearStream, you could do that as well. You could select an emulated option here, create your little floor plan in the site survey tool that comes with ClearStream, and then as you drag the tagged items in the read ranges of the antennas, they'll be reported to the destination just as regular equipment will do. So it's a good way to, at least to set it up, see how it works, even just learn it. You can use that emulated option. Now, you may have noticed there's two Zebra options here. There's Zebra/Motorola, and then down below there's the Zebra IoT Connector. So the reason there are two is Zebra readers offer two different ways to communicate with the devices. The RFID 3 API, which they've traditionally had on all of their readers, is this first option. This first option supports things like the Zebra FX7500, the 9600, and the ATR 7000, and communicates a little bit differently than the IoT connector. Currently, the FXR90 only supports the Zebra IoT connector. So you can't, if you were to select the Zebra Motorola option up here and tried to connect to an FXR90, it wouldn't communicate with that device. It'll fail connecting to an FXR90. Zebra is currently actually working on adding support for this. So in the coming months, you'll be able to select either one of these Zebra options to connect to an FXR90. But for now, you would need to select the Zebra IoT connector here when you're connecting to the FXR90. The other note I will make about that is the IoT connector does have some other features available within ClearStream when you're working with Zebra readers. And those things include, one, the GPS coordinates for the FXR90 and support for the FXR90, but also some of the directionality features of the ATR 7000. And I talked about that in our last webinar. So if you go again to our website and look for the recording there, the ATR 7000, when you're using the IoT connector, will give you some cool directionality features with that device. So you can actually set up direction scanning over loading docks using one ATR, and you get, as tags are moving in and out of the loading docks, the direction of movement as they go through those. So for that case, and I talked about it in the last webinar, you would select the Zebra IoT connector if you're using an ATR 7000 to do that directionality type application. Okay, so to add your reader here, I'm going to go ahead and name it GPS device. We'll just call it whatever. Actually, let's call it like truck 100. So we installed this device on a truck. It's powered by an inverter on the truck, so we have power supply. It's maybe connected to WAN. We'll call it truck 100. So everything that's scanned by this reader, we're going to know in our database where that, or which truck that tag was on. To configure the reader, this only has to be really done initially, but I need to find the reader on the network to actually go ahead and then configure it. So I can either hit find here, and this will search the network for the device, or I can just, if I know it, just type in the IP address of the reader. Mine happens to be 4.181. If I hit enter there, it will prompt me for the username and password of the FXR90. So I'll go ahead and enter that. If I have a successful connection to the FXR90 here, you'll see the device ID pop up. So this means ClearStream was able to use the login credentials to access the reader and communicate with it. So once you see that, you know you have a connection to the FXR90 and you're good to go at that point. A little bit about the settings here. These settings down below are specific to each one of the readers that you add in your configuration. There's no real limit to the number of readers that you add to ClearStream. You could add a whole bunch of trucks here, and for each one of those, you'd configure the settings for that reader down below. So there's things like the scan mode, which is how often and when the reader's scanning for tags. Maybe it's continuous, It's always on, always looking for tags, always recording those tags and sending them to the destination. But you can also do things like timed scanning or a GPI, general purpose input trigger scanning. So maybe you want to hook up a photo eye to the FXR90. You can do that. Just wire it up, switch the scan mode to GPI trigger, and then put for how long you'd like to scan when that photo eye is tripped. Antenna settings here, you can configure all of the antennas. If you right click, there's a couple helper functions here. You'll notice for the Zebra FXR90, there's some preset options for the 4-port, 8-port, or the 4-port with internal antennas, or just the internal antennas if you're not wiring anything up to the device. But these are just pre-configured antennas that you can add to your list. If you leave these all blank, it'll just power up all of the antennas at full power. So that's all I'm going to do for now. But you can configure the power level settings there. If you needed to dial the power down because it's reading too far, you can set the power level lower and things like that. You can configure that sort of stuff within ClearStream. The tag settings options here, these are all controlling how and when to report a tag to the destination. So not when it's actually reading the tag, but whether or not to report it. So you can do things like report when a tag is visible, which just means when you scanned it. You can also report it when a tag is no longer visible. So if you wanted to see how long an item was on a truck, you'll get that first tag read of visible, and then when it goes away and is no longer being seen by the antenna, it'll get a report to your destination called for no tag read. I'm sorry, report no longer visible. So you put on report no longer visible if you want to say the tag left the truck at such and such time. But you can control all of those settings here. It's how and when tags are being reported to the destination. Because typically these readers are scanning the tags thousands of times. You only want the important events out of that, when it first showed up and when it left. Or maybe once every 10 seconds you want to record that tag just to have a breadcrumb of how long it's been there and keep getting tag reads back to the destination. So it controls when those tag reads make it to your destination and gives you the important data that you need. Custom fields, I won't talk about today on this webinar. GPOs, the FXR90 does have outputs, so you can power up lights and buzzers and things like that. So if something happens, you can have a light flash or whatever. You can all control that through here in the GPO settings. Finally, you have the device tab. Now this tab actually changes the content of the tab based on whatever the type is that you select up above here. So because this is a Zebra IoT connector device, it gives you these different settings, which allows you to configure for our webinar today, the important thing of the GPS coordinates. But I'll just talk a little bit about some of these different settings here. The first is the data endpoint. You can have the FXR90 send data to either ClearStream for Windows, or you can actually have it send directly to the PTS Cloud, which bypasses entirely ClearStream. It goes right to your PTS Cloud instance. So if you want to just deploy these readers out in the field with no software to install, you could just configure it to point to the PTS Cloud. And now as tags are read, it gets sent over to your PTS Cloud, and you have all of that data being accumulated in your cloud service that we provide. So it's another option if you're not going through the ClearStream for Windows. ClearStream for Windows will route the tag data to the destination that you have selected, like we did at the start. I'm going to leave that as ClearStream for Windows. So some of the other options here, tag reporting. This is allows you to batch tags and have it phone home the tags every once in a while. So again, it goes back to that remote kiosk type application. You would want to turn on tag reporting. To turn that on, you simply have to turn off this. And now you can configure the tag reporting. And again, that means it instructs the FXR90 to accumulate tag reads on the device, or allows it to accumulate tag reads on the device if it doesn't have network connectivity, so that it can then send that data when it has network connectivity back to ClearStream. So it'll hold that tag data there, all of the tags that you've scanned on the truck. Maybe you scan a whole bunch of stuff. You capture the GPS coordinates, but you don't have WAN connectivity wherever you may have scanned these. You can tell it here to send those in batches so that the tag data is retained on the device and then sent over to ClearStream when that data connectivity is available. I'm going to turn that setting back off though and leave it on here for the webinar today. The next setting here is the operating mode. There's only two options here, custom, which we're going to leave for the FXR90, but there's also the directionality option. So if this was an ATR 7000, and you can see this box is grayed out. If this was an ATR 7000, we can configure the directionality settings, which again, that's that cool feature in the latest version of the ATRs that allows you to install the one device overhead and capture direction of tags as it's moving underneath. So you would configure that here, and there's different settings for like how big your lanes are, how wide the lanes are, how long the lanes are, and all that sort of stuff. So you're sort of creating the zones that you're going to be capturing that tag direction in. And for our purposes today, I'm going to just scroll down to our simple option for capturing GPS coordinates here. It's the GPS section, which is for the Zebra FXR90 only. And really the only thing you need to do here is enable this and change its refresh interval for how often you want to refresh those GPS coordinates. It's in milliseconds. I'll put it as 5 here for the demo. I will note, actually, this is going to go away in the next release of ClearStream. So it'll just actually be the enabled checkbox. We changed it a little bit so that it actually just record that real-time GPS rather than doing kind of that refresh every X number of seconds. But for now, you enable it and then you put your refresh rate there on the checkbox. Now, that's all we really need to do to configure the reader to say, hey, capture GPS coordinates along with your data. So I'll go ahead and close this. And the final thing I'll need to do before I start this up is just make sure my mappings are good. So most of these are one-to-one. I have an EPC. So the EPC value that we're scanning from the tag is mapped to the EPC column in the database. But I do want to change down below the latitude, longitude, and last report time. I will change those to latitude, longitude, and the last report time. Let me name some of this. So capture truck inventory. So I think we're pretty much done with this configuration. I have my FXR90 named as truck 100 on the left-hand side here. I have GPS coordinates enabled inside of the settings for that device. If you didn't have it enabled there, it's not going to capture the GPS coordinates, which you may need to do if you don't have that GPS add-on. You would just disable the GPS within the configuration. And then finally, I just have the mapping. So the mappings for latitude, longitude, and last report time are mapped to those appropriate fields in our destination database, which again is this Microsoft Access database. I scroll over, there's no GPS values, there's no tags in here. So finally, I'll just go ahead and go over to Start Stop, and I'm going to hit Start here. This will power the FXR90 on, and for all of the tags that it's capturing within our truck, truck 100 capture truck inventory, it's sending them to the destination. If I jump over to the destination and just hit refresh, you'll see these are the tags now that are on the truck. I'll get things like the antenna that scan the tag. I only have one hooked up to mine. This is actually one of the FXR90s without the embedded antenna. Here's all of the tags that I've scanned on my truck. The signal strength, date time stamps for when those tags were scanned. So a couple things about that. This is a continuous scan, so I'm getting every tag that's nearby me right now because this is right next to me, the FXR90. You might want to do things on a truck like maybe pull it every once in a while, or maybe even hook up something to the door that on the truck that would allow you to scan the contents of the truck maybe when it's closed. So you open the truck, you might take something off, you close it, you can have ClearStream instruct the reader to turn on and scan for 20 seconds or whatever you need, capture all of that tag data and send it over all in one shot. Then you can see, okay, at 8 o'clock, the worker finished up with his job, closed the doors on the truck, it triggers the scanner to read, you get all the contents of that truck, and now you actually see what maybe was removed from that truck at the time of the job being performed. So there's a whole bunch of different kind of settings you can do there. Now I'm, again, continuous scan mode, so you can see all these date times are going to be very similar, just a couple seconds off each one of them. But you can see I scanned it on truck 100, the count of the tag data, whether or not it was visible or not. So this goes back actually to the point where I said report tag visible or no longer visible. This would be another way to determine maybe if something left the area. Is this tag event actually, if I had report not visible on, would tell me to the database that the tag is no longer visible, and I'd see that entry into the database. But if I continue scrolling over to the right-hand side here, you'll also see I've captured now the GPS coordinates with each tag read. Now again, my truck isn't moving here, so I'm just capturing all of the same coordinates. It looks like maybe some that are slightly off by a couple decimal places here, probably as the satellites move overhead, but these are all capturing essentially with the same coordinates. But again, with every tag read, I'm getting the GPS data that's associated to that tag read, and it's being reported into my destination database. So I'm capturing that exact location in real time of where this tag is. And it all that kind of flexibility and power comes back to the fact that this FXR90 can be deployed out in the field. It can be deployed in a truck, and it has all of those connectivity options to get that data back, rather than just your traditional fixed RFID scanner that hooks up to your corporate network. Now, it's not always the case. You could do, again, things like a remote kiosk PC, or you can do an embedded application like our ClearStream onboard product. But this is kind of an all-in-one solution that handles a lot of that and gets that data back to your home office wherever it is out in the field. So that's really all I wanted to show, I think, for the setup. It's kind of, I went through a lot of the ClearStream basics here as well, because the setup for this is pretty easy. Really just put in the IP address of your reader, make sure it's a Zebra IoT device, IoT Connector device, and then go to the settings there and enable GPS. And once you do that, you start capturing not only all of the tag data that you're collecting from the field, but you're getting the GPS coordinates along with that tag data back to your home office, back to whatever system you have this configured to, and you're collecting all of that data out in the field. So let me jump back to the PowerPoint. It's really all I wanted to show and give a demonstration of today with ClearStream. I would encourage everybody that has not used ClearStream before to go ahead to our website. You can download everything here and set it up as a free trial. So you can, if you have an FXR90 available, you can go ahead and configure it in a couple of minutes now, I'd say, and get the tag data that the reader is collecting along with the location data with each tag read. So I'll bring the PowerPoint back up here, but really it's just the question panel. So I hope you guys have some questions if you want to send them over. I'm going to sort through. Let me delete all of the ones where people were telling me they could see the screen, so I apologize. Close these things. I'm just looking through this question panel here. Question here about what are the power options for the FXR90. Great question. So the device can actually be powered PoE, just like all of the other Zebra RFID devices as well. So you can do PoE. You can also just do your standard power brick. Those will be two separate ports on the reader that you can plug in. So you can do your regular wall outlet or PoE. If you need this in a truck, you would need some type of inverter that converts the power supply to whatever your region's typical voltage is. So in the US, 110 voltage, so you'd need an inverter on the truck to convert to 110 voltage, which then could be powered over a standard power supply brick that you can get for the FXR90. I'm just looking through these questions. They changed these question panel, and it's very difficult to see because it's so small. Okay, question here. You used the local IP address when you were setting up the reader. Can you still configure the FXR90 through ClearStream desktop after the FXR90 has already been deployed? Currently, this is a great question. Currently, no. The communication that's made to the reader is done over that direct network connection. So like you point out there, I'm just putting in the IP address, and ClearStream is making a connection to the reader, and it's telling it the new configuration setting. So if you were to take this and deploy it in a remote kiosk location, currently you can't do that. However, we are looking into incorporating the settings for this in our ClearStream Cloud console. And let me bring that up briefly so I can just talk to that for a second. So we have a cloud portal that allows you to configure our ClearStream onboard application. Bear with me one second. I'm going to bring this. So our ClearStream onboard application, excuse me, gets installed directly on a reader. Now, it doesn't currently support the FXR90, but it installs on an ATR 7000 or a Zebra 70, FX7500 or 9600. And it runs on the reader and actually downloads its configuration from the website. So you configure the reader and it gets its new settings. So that's what you see here on the screen. This is the cloud console for that. And I can actually scroll through this and see all of my applications. Here's actually Truck 100. I can see all my readers that I have configured for my account and see their statuses. If the reader is running ClearStream on board, rather than ClearStream for Windows, now this webinar, I won't go into too much detail there, but again, it's a ClearStream application that runs on the reader. If it does that, you can click Configure here, and you can configure the reader directly through the website. And this allows you to do that, the reader, when it's out in the field. So an FX7500, say, you'd install ClearStream on board. ClearStream on board is communicating with this website and getting its configuration from whatever you set up here. And it can do that from a remote location. So we're looking to add that capability as well to the FXR90. Currently, though, you would need to use the ClearStream Windows application to configure that directly from that location. Follow up to that one, does FXR90 support dedicated IP addresses so we have access to it directly? Yes, you can set a static IP address, so just like any of the other fixed readers from Zebra and most other manufacturers, I believe. You'd go into the configuration tool for the reader and set any of the IP settings that you need to there. Another question here, does ClearStream support in-out, like for transition, like for example, 2 antennas in, 2 antennas out? Which set of antennas is read first determines the direction. Yeah, you can configure that within ClearStream. One of the things I kind of skipped over here is you can configure custom settings or custom events. So custom events allows you to do just that. You can say, let's say transition in, and the transition in event could be made up of antenna out followed by antenna equals in. This is a custom event in ClearStream. What this means now is if a tag was read by the out antenna followed by the in antenna, it's going to report to my database a transition in event. And this can be more than 2 antennas here. So it could be like the 4, like you mentioned, like that, the ST5500. But you can set up custom events there. So that ClearStream is basically waiting for one antenna to read the tag, then the next. And if it does that, then it will report in a certain direction. Let me get rid of this for now. A question here on, I'm assuming, the upcoming merged portal. What is the timeline for merging the ClearStream and Tracer Plus Cloud? I'm thinking that's going to be the first quarter of 2026. That is currently in development. So keep an eye out for that. I don't have a definite date yet, but we should be getting that soon. But keep a lookout for when that's going to be available. Here's a question I think I answered, but can this be used with the PTS Cloud? Yeah, that's, I don't know, this might have come in before I went through that, but whoops, I just removed my reader. To use it the PTS Cloud, there's actually 2 ways to do it. You can have the reader send directly to the PTS Cloud by selecting the data endpoint for the reader here, or you can actually, like I mentioned before, you can select the PTS RIA endpoint here to actually send to PTS Cloud instance as well. In this case, it's going through ClearStream before it gets to the cloud. The other one, if you set it up from the reader itself, the reader actually just sends it right to the PTS Cloud. And actually, just to illustrate to everybody what the PTS Cloud is, the PTS Cloud is a service that we provide here at PTS to really build, in some cases, a full end-to-end solution for these data collection processes. So we'll work with our end users to come up with a spec for their cloud, which will include things like what type of data they want to capture, what type of reports they want in the cloud, any extra features of the cloud that they need built into that. But we'll work on a spec with our end users, build that cloud out, and that cloud can then include being fed data to it from our Tracer Plus application as well as our ClearStream application. And it's really it can be a full end-to-end solution for the type of application you're creating. Maybe you wanted to create a truck inventory cloud app. You could contact us to go through setting up a PTS Cloud for that. We can create the cloud, create the views to see the items in each truck, create the different data tables that you'd like to have to capture data from that. But it's a full service that we provide here that can be end-to-end or can then be integrated into other systems as well from the cloud side. So we can have the PTS Cloud talk to other services. Here's a follow-up question to the directionality. Since ClearStream supports transition custom tags events, does it also support cooling down to prevent ping pong after a decision in and out has been made, detecting RSSI changes and phase to validate in and out events? In the ClearStream settings for custom events that I just showed you there, no, you can have it clear the buffer out entirely upon getting the first transition. So there's a couple settings there that might help mitigate what you're talking about with the ping pong, where you get between the antennas and you get back and forth events. So you can have it clear that buffer out, or you can have the buffer retain, and then it'll wait for the tag not visible event. I will note that if you're using directionality, not with the ST5500, but if you're using the ATR, when you select directionality here, this is allowing the reader to completely control at the zebra level calculation of that transition event. So if something you're looking to do is transition, I would actually recommend taking a look at the ATR 7000, where you can set up the different lanes that it's tracking below the ATR 7000, and then turning on directionality here in ClearStream. Then that actually does, through their calculations, limits that ping pong where it calculates the tag from one side back to the other as you're kind of going between the two different antennas. That'll help mitigate some of that through Zebra's calculations of direction. But that does it all on the reader itself. It's separate from the ClearStream custom events area, which is really just once it gets that transition, it's going to report it as event to the destination. Any other questions from anyone? Let me bring the PowerPoint back up. Please, if you have questions, send them over. I'll just jump over to our contact info here. But if you do have questions after the webinar today, and if you do have anything, please send it over to while we're talking. But while I'm talking, but here's our contact information. So if you do have questions afterwards, we can answer them for you, or also Open Office is another great place for questions. Again, we do those every Tuesday and Thursday. So if you go to ClearStreamRFID.com, you can sign up for those webinars, those Open Office webinars, and any questions you may have. And again, it's a great place for if you're actually setting ClearStream up while you're on the webinar, you can try to get things working. And if you have any questions that you may have or anything you're struggling with, you can ask them while you're working on it. Ask a tech on the Open Office. So it's a great tool for getting any questions you have answered. Of course, we have our contact information here. So if you have anything that you'd like to reach out to us with after the webinar, please use the contact information on the screen. Now, I did have another question here. Does ClearStream support white labeling. And we have done this in the past. If you have a specific need for it, I would recommend calling into our team here to discuss what you'd like to do. One thing I would mention is ClearStream on board. A lot of services will use that application because it's configured remotely through through our website, and it feeds data to third-party web services, that ClearStream on board application. So it can be installed in a way that it's not a front and center application, server application, when you're deploying a solution. But if you have a specific need for that, please reach out to us. You can see the contact information we have on the screen here. All right, if there's no more questions, again, I appreciate everybody joining us today, taking time out of the day to check out some of the latest stuff here at PTS and with our ClearStream RFID product. But we look forward to any feedback you guys have, and also to encourage you to trial the software and let us know what you think. So with that, again, thank you all for joining us, and I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of their day and look forward to seeing you on the next webinar. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.